She said it was just a work trip. But I found a plane ticket with his name on it. 14 years. That's how long we were together. College sweethearts. The kind of love people write stupid poems about. We had this ritual every Sunday: coffee, crossword, and cuddles. Yeah, it was corny, but it was ours. I thought we were unbreakable. Until I found the folder. You know, it's funny how trust breaks down, not with a bang, but like a slow leak in the roof. A mistext. A strange receipt. A canceled plan that doesn't quite add up. But this was a landslide. And it all started with a bag she forgot to pack. Let me take you back. We met when we were both 19. She was the magnetic girl with the effortless laugh, and I was just another guy in a stats class trying to figure out if she was real. Back then, she used to doodle on my notes and call me Professor Jason when I tried to explain anything remotely academic. Cute, right? 14 years passed. Degrees, job offers, our wedding with those slightly mismatched napkins that bugged her, a few fertility treatments that didn't take, and what I believed was a rock-solid partnership. She worked in corporate real estate. I built a digital consultancy from the ground up. We were a team. At least, that's what I thought. Things started unraveling last fall. Subtle at first. She started coming home late from client dinners. Not crazy late, but just enough to raise a brow. Then came the gym membership she'd never mentioned. The silent phone turned screen down during dinner. The unexplained charge for a high-end spa in a city she had no reason to be in. Still, I brushed it off. Gave her the benefit of the doubt. People change, right? Maybe she just needed space. I even booked us a vacation to New Mexico, her favorite spot, the red desert skies and all that. She smiled, kissed my cheek, said she couldn't wait. The night before the trip, she told me she had a last-minute team-building retreat. Same weekend. Same dates. Jason, I didn't plan it. The company did. It's mandatory. We can rebook, I promise. Mandatory retreat. Huh? All right. I didn't push back. But something about the way she said it, like she'd rehearsed the line a few times too many. And then came the suitcase. She left for work the next morning, supposedly headed to the airport that evening. I went to grab my charger from her side of the dresser and saw her carry-on half-zipped, sitting awkwardly like it didn't want to be noticed. Curiosity nudged me. So, I peeked. Tucked between neatly folded blouses was a slip of paper, her printed flight itinerary. Only, there were two names on it. Her name, and his. Robert Kinsey. City manager, corporate division. I recognized the name. She'd mentioned him once, maybe twice. Her mentor, she said. Middle-aged, brilliant, married with 3 kids. I remember because she said he looked like a tired Tom Hanks. That's when my stomach turned into granite. I took photos of the ticket, closed the suitcase carefully, and sat on our bed staring at nothing for a long, long time. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because I knew if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. When she came home that evening, bright smile, overnight bag slung over her shoulder, I kissed her on the cheek, told her to have a safe flight, and even helped her load the Uber with her suitcase. She thought I was clueless. She didn't know I'd already hired a private investigator named Carl. Carl looked like the kind of guy who drank burnt coffee out of a chip thermos and had a trust no one bumper sticker. But he was good. Too good. Within 3 days, he sent me a digital folder titled Kinsey Files. Inside, hotel invoices under a company alias, photos of the two of them at a beachside bar, and a PDF of an internal flight manifest confirming they shared 3 different bookings in the last 2 months, none of which she mentioned. But that wasn't the worst part. The emails were. Carl got access to her company laptop via a subcontracted tech friend, legalish, but not prosecutable. The emails dated back almost a year. They began professional, shifted to playful, and eventually crossed into deeply personal. Subject, the last night. You always know how to make me feel young again. I keep replaying your laugh in my mind. Robert Kinsey. My hands were ice. My chest felt like it was being slowly crushed under wet concrete. Another email from her. Subject, need to be careful. Jason's been acting suspicious. I think he saw the spa bill. We should lay low for a bit. I'll use company cards only from now on. Her words. Not a flicker of guilt. Just logistical maneuvering. Then came the medical record, buried in a scanned image of her insurance reimbursements, quietly labeled, outpatient, women's health. I cross-referenced it with the date she claimed she had a client off-site in Denver. Carl confirmed it. She'd had a medical appointment, one that suggested a very serious decision. It was the same week she told me her cycle was just a bit off and that she didn't want to talk about trying anymore. 14 years of shared pain through fertility treatments, and she ended a pregnancy without ever telling me. I hadn't even known. I walked into the shower fully clothed that night. Stood under the water until I couldn't tell if it was tears or tap water running down my face. The next day, I emailed my divorce attorney, one I'd never thought I'd need. I started building a spreadsheet titled, What She Took and What I Still Have. Turns out, what she took wasn't just love. It was time, energy, loyalty, and belief. Sunday, 6:13 p.m. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it ever had in our 14 years together. I sat in the living room, staring at the manila folder on the coffee table like it was a live grenade. I wasn't shaking. Not anymore. The storm had passed. What I had now was stillness, cold, deliberate stillness. The garage door creaked open. Her voice floated in seconds later, light and careless. Hey babe, you won't believe how packed Whole Foods was. I grabbed that oat milk you like. I didn't answer. She stepped into the living room and froze mid-step when she saw me. Her smile flickered. What's wrong? I motioned toward the folder. Sit. Jason. Sit. She obeyed, more out of confusion than fear. She placed her shopping bag down gently, like any sudden movement might set something off. Open it, I said. She hesitated, then pulled back the flap. Her eyes scanned the top page, a printed email thread between her and Robert Kinsey. She flipped to the next, a hotel invoice from a weekend she'd said was for a conference. Then the next, photos of her and Kinsey in beachwear, sipping cocktails under a cabana. And finally, the medical document. The one that confirmed she'd made a decision. The date? Just 1 week after we talked, again, about trying to start a family one last time. She stopped flipping. The color drained from her face. I sat forward. Were you ever going to tell me? Her lips parted, but no words came out. You were just going to keep smiling, keep lying to my face? How long, Kayla? How long has this been going on? She finally spoke. It wasn't what you think. Don't, I snapped, voice sharp enough to cut steel. Don't even try that line. She looked down, clearly shaken. It started about 6 months ago. Things got blurry during that summit in Miami. We both made poor decisions. It was a mistake. So you spent time with him once, and that somehow turned into a dozen trips, fake client retreats, and matching travel plans? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I leaned back in the chair. No, it never is. You're just out here, freestyling justification for lying. She stood, hands out like she was pleading to the ceiling. You were always working. You stopped noticing me. Robert reminded me of who I used to be. Alive. That word felt like vinegar in my ears. Alive. I let out a bitter laugh. So you blew up our marriage just to feel something? Tears welled up. Jason, please. Let's go to therapy. Let's fix this. You're confusing me with someone who still believes in recycling wreckage. That hit her. She sat down hard. I still love you. I stood slowly, walked toward the door, then stopped. Good. Then you'll understand when I say this. We're done. The trust is gone. The future we planned? Gone. What's left is a legal process and a memory I'll spend the next year trying to bleach out of my brain. She started crying for real now, loud, ugly sobs. But they didn't move me. Not anymore. I'll give you 2 days to move out, I said, opening the door. And Kayla? Don't mistake my calm for forgiveness. It's just efficiency. Then I left her there. Alone, crying on the couch we bought together. The same one we almost named our future child on. She moved out 3 days later. Quietly, as if packing up shame one cardigan at a time. I didn't hover. I didn't speak. I just listened from the upstairs hallway as she tiptoed through our life like it was a stranger's home. The only thing she left behind was a framed photo of us on the Amalfi Coast, smiling. By that time, my attorney had already filed the initial papers. A no-fault divorce, though irreconcilable betrayal felt more accurate. We had no kids, no pets. But we did have assets. A lot of them. And Kayla? She wanted her share, plus a bit more, to help get back on her feet. That's what she wrote in her counterclaim. That same woman who took a trip to Cancun on a company card with a colleague, now presenting herself as someone financially impacted by an unexpected separation. She didn't just want alimony. She wanted half the house. Half my business. Half of everything I bled to build. But there was one thing she hadn't counted on. The prenup. 14 years ago, before the wedding, my father, paranoid old lawyer that he was, insisted on one. I balked at the time, But now I wanted to shake his hand. Per the agreement we had in place, any breach of trust would waive rights to jointly acquired property not in her name. She hadn't been involved in the business. The house was purchased solely under my name before the marriage. Her assets amounted to a lease and some furniture, though even that was open to interpretation. When her lawyer saw the clause, he requested a private sidebar with her. 10 minutes later, she returned looking like she'd aged 5 years. She tried one last Hail Mary. "Jason, can we talk? Just the two of us." "No," I replied without looking up from the legal pad. "You wanted freedom. This is what it looks like." That was the last time I saw her in person. A week later, I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved. New city, new job. Apparently, she followed Robert, who left his wife, by the way. They rented some suburban condo out of state. The friend said Kayla looked unrecognizably thin and kept trying to pretend everything was fine. I didn't reach out. I didn't respond to her occasional attempts to just check in. I didn't even read the email she sent with the subject line, "I'm sorry." Really? What was there left to say? She left. She stayed gone. And I stayed standing. 3 weeks post-divorce. The paperwork was filed. The ring was gone. The house was quiet. The quiet that feels less like peace and more like an abandoned echo chamber. I hadn't heard from Kayla since her lawyer accepted the settlement. No emails, no texts, no half-hearted apologies that tried to claw their way back into my life. Until I got the message. Not from her. From Lila Kinsey. Subject line, "I think we need to talk." It stopped me mid-sip of my morning coffee. Lila Kinsey, the wife of Robert, the man Kayla blew up our marriage for. I opened it, heartbeat tight in my throat. "Jason, I know this is probably the last thing you expected. I found your email on one of Robert's old business documents. I'm reaching out because, well, I think we're living parallel nightmares. I found a second phone in Robert's gym bag last week. Burner. Tucked between an old pair of running shoes and a box of protein bars. You were right about Kayla, but I think there's more. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. Lila." At first, I hesitated. What good could come from comparing scars? But curiosity won. And maybe, deep down, some sense of solidarity. We met for coffee that Friday, neutral ground, a quiet spot near the river. She was sharp, composed. The kind of woman who dressed like she ran board meetings and didn't flinch at conflict. But there was exhaustion in her eyes. The kind I recognized in my own mirror. "I'm guessing you know what kind of man your husband really is now," I said, cutting to the chase. She didn't flinch. I knew he was ambitious. I didn't know he was pathologically deceitful. She laid it all out. Robert had told her he was mentoring Kayla through a tough project. That she was married, but the marriage was dying. That they were just colleagues. Meanwhile, he was booking getaways, smuggling burner phones, and making her feel like the paranoid one for asking questions. Then Lila dropped I didn't see coming. "He didn't just leave me for Kayla," she said, pulling out her phone. "He was seeing someone else, too. A third woman. Another one from his company. Her name's Sarah." I blinked. "Wait, so he was juggling 3 relationships at once?" She nodded, dead serious. "Including his wife. All 3 of us had overlapping weekends. Hotel bills that cross-referenced. He was with Kayla in Sedona the same weekend he told Sarah he was at a leadership retreat, and I thought he was visiting his brother in Michigan. Hell of a trifecta," I muttered. Lila sighed. I felt stupid, until I started connecting dots. Then I just felt angry. We sat in silence for a few seconds. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. "You're the only one who gets it, Jason. I don't even want revenge. I want to understand how someone we trusted could create an entire life on top of ours." I nodded. "You're not alone there." As we parted ways that day, something shifted. It wasn't casual interaction. Not yet. It was recognition. Shared wreckage. The sense that the world might have knocked us down, but maybe, just maybe, it also shoved us into the same place for a reason. I was cleaning out the last of the storage closet when I found it. A dusty cardboard box marked tax docs. Inside were manila envelopes, old pay stubs, and a white envelope addressed in Kayla's handwriting. To Robert. Curiosity won. I opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten, folded twice. The ink smudged in places like she'd been crying while writing it, or at least wanted it to look that way. "Robert, I don't know where to start. You've stopped replying to my messages. I assume it's because of your situation with your wife, or because I told you I'd left Jason. I thought we had a plan. You said we'd move away. Start over. You said you loved me. Now you're gone. And I'm left with nothing. I need the truth. Was I just a distraction? Did any of it mean anything? I can't go back to Jason. Not after the choices I made, after what we chose. He doesn't even know I had to go back to the clinic. That was yours, not his. Please. Call me. Or write me. Something. Don't disappear. K. I read it twice. Then a third time. The second? That was a whole new kind of deception. Once she'd buried so deeply, I nearly missed it. And she really thought Robert would come back for more? She didn't just sabotage everything, she tried to rebuild her world on the wreckage, then acted surprised when it all fell apart. The irony? The man she threw everything away for ghosted her. Left her dangling with secrets and shattered delusions. And she couldn't even face me with the full truth. That night, I told Lila. We sat in silence for a while afterward, processing. Do you want to confront her? Lila asked gently. I shook my head. What's the point? She's already living in the wreckage. I don't need to throw another stone. Lila nodded. You're a better person than she deserves. That letter should have made me angry. Should have reopened the wounds. But it didn't. It just confirmed something I'd started to suspect. I'd gotten out just in time. I was never going to win with someone who turned loyalty into leverage and kept secrets like souvenirs. Later that week, I dropped the letter into the shredder and watched it vanish. No part of her story would live rent-free in my house anymore. I didn't plan it. There was no fancy dinner reservation. No violinist hiding in the bushes. No skywriting plane burning through the clouds. It was just a Tuesday. The kind of gray, unassuming day that wouldn't show up in a scrapbook. But Lila and I were on the porch again, mugs in hand, listening to a lazy drizzle tap the roof. She was reading some article about dog psychology and laughing at how dramatic German shepherds are when they don't get their way. That's when it hit me. Not in a thunderbolt way. More like a sunrise, slow, sure, undeniable. This is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. She caught me staring. What? She asked, brushing her hair back. I took a breath. I want to ask you something. She set her mug down, instantly alert. Okay. I pulled the velvet box from my hoodie pocket. It wasn't even new. I bought it months ago, kept it tucked away because the timing never felt quite right. Until now. I opened it. A simple ring platinum band. Single diamond. Nothing flashy. Lila Kinsey, or whatever name you want to go by now. I want to build a life with you. The honest kind. No secrets. No lies. Just burnt coffee and porch talks and the occasional fight over whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Her eyes welled up, and she bit her lip. Is this your way of distracting me from the dog article? Absolutely not. But if you say no, I'm going to tell people I blacked out and meant to hand you a quarter. She laughed through the tears. Yes. Yes, Jason. It's a ridiculous time to get engaged, but it's us. And I wouldn't want it any other way. We didn't cry. Not really. We just held each other like we'd both crawled through different fires and met on the other side still breathing. It was weird. Romantic, but not Hollywood. Just real. A few weeks later, we threw a small party. Backyard, string lights, burgers on the grill. No formal speeches, just a few raised glasses and a whole lot of relief. Funny thing, some people were confused. How can you love again so soon? They asked. But love doesn't wait for the calendar to catch up. When it's real, it just is. And when you've lost everything, you don't waste time guarding your heart like it's fine china. You hold it out, scars and all. She came back. Of course she did. It was a Wednesday, always a Wednesday, for some reason, when I got the email. Subject, can we talk? At first, I ignored it. Then came another. Subject, please, Jason. Then the third. I heard about the engagement. I don't know if this is stepping over a line, but I need to say something. One conversation. That's all I'm asking. Please. Curiosity isn't always healthy. But closure? That's something we crave, even when we know better. I agreed to meet her. Neutral ground again. Same Riverside Cafe where I first met Lila. Life's poetic like that. Kayla walked in wearing black, like she was dressing for a funeral. She sat across from me with a faint smile too practiced. You look well, she said. I am, I replied. You don't. She flinched. I guess I deserve that. We sipped our coffees in silence for a few moments before she started. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she began. Not just for the everything. For everything. For lying. For making you question who you were. I nodded slowly. Thanks. You done? Her eyes widened. I mean, aren't you angry? I shook my head. No, not anymore. That requires energy. I stopped spending it on you a long time ago. She seemed confused, like she expected a fight. Maybe even hoped for one. I made a mistake, she whispered. A huge one. You made a series of choices, I corrected. Mistakes are what happen when you back into a pole in a parking lot. You orchestrated all this. That takes planning. She sat back, arms folded. Robert left me, you know. He ghosted me. Left in the middle of the night with a text that said, "This isn't what I thought it would be." I nodded. Sounds familiar. She laughed bitterly. You're colder than I remember. No. Just finally at room temperature. The fever broke. That's when she said the thing that floored me. I should have married someone like you, she said softly. Stable. Loyal. Boring. Maybe. But real. I felt something was missing. And I didn't appreciate what I had until it was gone. I leaned forward, voice low. You didn't need more, Kayla. You needed chaos. And I'm done living inside someone else's disaster zone. She blinked fast, trying not to cry. I hope she makes you happy. She does, I said, standing. Because she doesn't make me feel like a placeholder. I left her there. No dramatic exit. No second look. Just the sound of her coffee spoon clinking against the mug like a ticking clock she couldn't rewind. We got married under gray skies. No, not metaphorically. Literally gray skies. It drizzled just enough to ruin Lila's curls and turn our backyard grass into a soft sponge. But no one cared. We laughed, we danced barefoot under string lights, and we toasted with mismatched champagne flutes we borrowed from 3 different friends. It wasn't perfect. It was better than that. It was real. There were no photo booths, no hashtag signs. Just us. And a few people who'd stood by us when everything cracked open. The rest? Left in the past where they belonged. After the guests left and the yard was quiet again, we sat on the porch with our shoes off, holding hands like teenagers who didn't yet know life could wreck you. You think they'll ever be happy? Lila asked out of nowhere. Who? Kayla. Robert. People like them. I thought for a moment. I think people like them only feel alive when they're chasing the next escape hatch. Happiness requires staying put. She smiled, satisfied with the answer, then leaned her head on my shoulder. So, what do we do now? I looked at her. Really looked. We live. That's it. That's the whole point. We stopped dragging old ghosts behind us. We deleted the backups of painful emails. We didn't check their social media or ask about mutual friends. We didn't waste another second looking backward. Instead, we built new traditions. Saturday grocery runs where we judged people's carts. Spontaneous road trips with terrible playlists. Quiet evenings where we solve problems, not silence. Sometimes, people ask how we moved on so quickly. The truth? We didn't move on. We moved through. Love isn't about how long you've been with someone. It's about who shows up when the world burns down and helps you build something better in the ashes.